helping to make the story plausible. If in a program evaluation you say that you made a difference, you are expected to back that up with evidence. In advocacy, however, clear evidence is usually hard to come by. For example, important changes may be hidden, or they happen in private meetings. The goal of narrative assessment is to produce plausible stories. These are richly detailed. They hang together and they fit in what is known about the context. Advocates often need help making their stories plausible. This is where the facilitator comes in to help them. Plausible stories have the right amount of detail, just enough to make sense of what is happening, not too much. If there are too many details, everybody will get lost and confused in them, and not too little. If there are not enough details, it is impossible to make sense of what is happening. At each step, if and only if more detail would help. For example, why a strategy was particularly successful, or how an apparent failure should be understood. The facilitator should ask for more details. How did that happen? Who did that? What else mattered in causing this? These sorts of questions reveal useful details. Plausible stories describe events that fit what is known about their context. This is important for two reasons. First, whether or not a chosen strategy is good or bad, it works or it fails, depends on how it fits into its context. So, it is not possible to make sense of what happens in a story unless it contains a rich description of its context. Second, since a story is more plausible if it fits what is known about the context, a narrative assessment facilitator must learn about that context before they start interviews. To make sure they can place a story in that context, and to see if the context as it is reported in the story fits reality. To learn more about the story's fit within the context, the facilitator asks about how the context figures in the story. For example, you know that other organizations were advocating for the same topic, but your interviewee is claiming all credit for a policy change. Ask about it. Plausible stories are consistent. All the parts fit with each other. For example, if an interviewee says at one point that a politician was very hostile at their ideas, and at another that they were very welcoming, that might beg a question or two. It might be true, and more detail will help understand the exception. Or it might be false, and that would be a problem. To strengthen consistency, when talking about this sudden open politician, for example, you might ask, how does their behavior at one point fit apparently very different behavior at another? Advocates struggle to make change in complex situations. Reports of events, of strategies, of actions and their outcomes, no matter how beautifully they fit a theory of change, don't hold water unless they are tightly woven, unless they contain the fine details, the nuanced embedding in well-understood context, and the internal coherence that makes these stories plausible.